He thought cutting my bonus would go unnoticed. He thought I would nod politely, adjust my blazer, and thank him for the opportunity to continue contributing. What he didn't know was that 11 years ago, I buried something deep inside the foundation of this company. And the moment he touched my compensation, he triggered it. My name is Eleanor Hayes, and for 11 years, 4 months, and 16 days, I have been invisible at Aldridge Capital Group. Not invisible in the forgettable way. Invisible in the way that makes you dangerous. If you've ever worked in corporate America, you know exactly who I was. The compliance officer on the 7th floor. The woman copied on emails nobody reads. The one executives greet warmly when they need a signature and avoid when they don't. That was me. Window facing another building. Fluorescent lighting that hummed faintly above my desk. Filing cabinets full of secrets no one remembered giving me. I preferred it that way. Dim rooms make it easier to see what others miss. The morning it happened, December rain streaked down the glass walls of our Midtown Manhattan tower. The boardroom smelled like burnt coffee and expensive cologne. At the head of the table stood Ryan Caldwell, our newly appointed CEO. 42. Polished. Harvard MBA. The kind of man who believed charisma was a substitute for ethics. His presentation glowed behind him. Operational efficiency realignment. Corporate code for someone is about to lose something they worked for. As we navigate tightening market conditions, he began smoothly, we must ensure executive vision aligns with strategic resource allocation. I've translated corporate language for over a decade. That sentence meant bonuses were being cut. He clicked to the next slide. Selective performance incentive redistribution. There it was. My department. Compliance. A neat bullet point. My annual $52,000 performance bonus was eliminated effective immediately. Reallocated to digital optimization initiatives. The room went quiet in that particular way rooms do when someone powerful takes something from someone less powerful. Nobody looked at me. Ryan did. Just briefly. Eleanor, he said, voice gentle and patronizing, I trust you understand. Business is business. I smiled. Calm. Neutral. Pleasant. Of course, I said. I understand. And I did. I understood exactly what kind of man he was. What he didn't understand was that 11 years earlier, during Aldridge's near collapse over a failed acquisition, I was the one who found the regulatory defect that saved us from a $120 million class action disaster. I worked 72 consecutive hours in this building. No sleep. Just federal statutes and black coffee. Back then, the CEO was Thomas Bennett. Old school. Not perfect, but he understood loyalty. After we survived, he asked what I wanted as recognition. A raise. A promotion. A public acknowledgement. I asked for protection. Specifically, I asked to amend my employment agreement. It looked harmless. A standard indemnification adjustment tucked between arbitration provisions and intellectual property clauses. It wasn't harmless. It was precise. Clause 14C. If my compensation was reduced without documented performance deficiency, I would be granted immediate access to internal governance records, executive compensation data, and board communications dating back to the start of my employment. Additionally, any deferred stock units held in trust would convert to direct voting shares within 48 hours of notice. Bennett signed it without hesitation. He thought I was cautious. I was strategic. Ryan Caldwell didn't document cause. No performance warning. No evaluation. No formal memo. Just a slide deck and an assumption that I would accept it quietly. That assumption activated Clause 14C. Back in my office, I closed the door softly and opened my laptop. I drafted a single email. Subject line, activation of Clause 14C, Employment Agreement. Attached was the signed amendment from 2012. I sent it at 2:11 p.m. on a Friday. Timing matters. By 2:15, legal called. I let it ring. By 2:19, my system permissions shifted. New folders appeared inside our digital archive like hidden rooms revealing themselves in a house I had lived in for years. Executive Compensation Committee minutes. Board executive sessions. Restricted audit files. Vendor agreements marked confidential. Most people would panic. I felt calm. I didn't open Ryan's file first. Impulse is sloppy. Instead, I widened the lens. Expense authorizations. Consulting contracts. Vendor payments. Patterns reveal themselves when you zoom out. That's when I saw it. Meridian Strategic Advisory. Paid $1.8 million over 5 months for organizational restructuring analysis. Owned by a holding company. Owned by another holding company. Registered in Delaware. Beneficial owner, Ryan Caldwell. He had hired his own shell firm to recommend workforce reductions. Including cutting compliance compensation. Including cutting mine. I leaned back and exhaled slowly. Not shocked. Just disappointed at how predictable greed can be. Then I found Project Atlas. A Q2 restructuring initiative. Eliminate 600 employees. Outsource compliance monitoring to automated AI systems developed by a partner firm affiliated with Meridian. He wasn't cutting costs. He was manufacturing profit streams. My phone buzzed repeatedly. HR, legal. CFO. Ignored. Instead, I activated our internal legal hold protocol, a safeguard I insisted on implementing years ago. Every document connected to Meridian, Project Atlas, and executive compensation was locked from deletion. I began downloading everything. System logs. Email chains. Metadata trails. Clean. Methodical. Thorough. At 8:43 p.m., I located an internal board thread. Subject, Hayes Transition Strategy. Ryan wrote, if we eliminate her bonus now, we establish financial cause before Q2 restructuring. She's risk-averse. She won't escalate. I actually laughed. Risk-averse. He mistook composure for weakness. By Saturday morning, I had archived over 2 terabytes of evidence. My attorney, Sandra Kemp, was reviewing key materials. Settlement offers began arriving by Sunday afternoon. 2 years' salary. Full bonus restoration. Non-disclosure agreement. Immediate resignation package. Ryan commented internally, she's bluffing. Reduce the offer. That comment alone was fatal. But here is where this becomes more than revenge. Over 11 years, through reinvested dividends and employee equity programs nobody paid attention to, I had quietly accumulated 4.1% of Aldridge capital. Combined with 3 institutional shareholders already uneasy about governance irregularities, I could cross the 7% threshold required to call an emergency shareholder review under Section 3.9 of our bylaws. Sunday night, instead of replying to legal, I filed the notice. Monday at 8 a.m., the board convened an emergency session. When I walked into that boardroom carrying 3 leather binders and 6 cups of coffee from the corner cafe, no one smiled. Ryan wasn't presenting slides anymore. He was sitting. Pale. Tight jaw. The board members weren't looking past me. They were looking at me. For 11 years, I had been invisible. That morning, I was the only person in the room who truly understood what was about to happen. And they were finally starting to realize it. Monday morning, the fog sat low over Manhattan, wrapping the city in a gray silence that felt almost ceremonial. I stepped into the boardroom at 7:59 a.m., 3 leather binders under my arm, 6 cups of dark roast balanced carefully in a cardboard tray. No one thanked me for the coffee. No one reached for it. They were too busy calculating risk. Ryan Caldwell sat halfway down the table, not at the head anymore. That was the first shift. The board chair, Leonard Brooks, occupied the center seat. His expression was strained but composed, the look of a man who had spent the weekend reading documents he wished did not exist. Eleanor, Leonard began carefully, we received your shareholder notice. I assumed you would, I replied, setting the binders down. It was sent to each of you directly. Ryan leaned forward. This is disproportionate, he said sharply. We adjusted a bonus pool. That's it. I met his eyes. You eliminated my compensation without documented cause, triggering Clause 14C. That gave me access to records. The records revealed Meridian's strategic advisory. Silence. Heavy. Airless. Leonard looked at Ryan. Is it true? Ryan's jaw tightened. Meridian is an independent advisory firm. I opened binder 1 and slid copies down the table. Meridian is owned through Caldwell Holdings LLC, which you control. Payments totaling $1.8 million were approved under your authority. That's self-dealing. One board member, Patricia Green, flipped pages rapidly. These signatures are yours, Ryan. He didn't answer immediately. That hesitation was louder than any confession. This is a misinterpretation, Ryan insisted. Compensation structures for consultants are standard practice. Consultants, I said calmly, who recommended workforce reductions that would increase projected margin performance tied directly to your bonus multiplier. Leonard exhaled slowly. Ryan, did you disclose your ownership stake? Ryan said nothing. That was the second shift. I opened binder 2. Project Atlas, I continued. A Q2 initiative to eliminate 600 employees while reallocating capital toward a proprietary AI compliance system licensed through Meridian's partner firm. A partner firm that also shares executive overlap with Caldwell Holdings. Across the table, Patricia Green's face drained of color. You were planning to automate compliance? Ryan turned defensive. Strategic modernization is necessary in this market. Modernization is not the issue, I replied evenly. Profiting from internal restructuring without disclosure is. Leonard rubbed his temples. How widespread is this? Enough, I answered. And I've placed a legal hold on all associated documents. Additionally, I have submitted preliminary materials to regulatory authorities. Ryan's head snapped up. You what? I notified the appropriate agencies of potential securities violations. I have not escalated further. Yet. The word hung in the air. Yet. You're blackmailing us, Ryan said. No, I corrected. I'm enforcing compliance. There's a difference. Leonard straightened in his chair. What do you want? I appreciated the directness. It meant they understood the leverage had shifted. I want governance restored, I said. Immediate resignation of the CEO. Independent forensic audit of executive compensation. Cancellation of Project Atlas pending review. Full restoration of eliminated employee bonuses with interest. And formation of a shareholder-led oversight committee. Ryan let out a short laugh. You think you can force that? I don't think, I said softly. I calculated. I slid a single-page summary across the table. My coalition currently controls 7.4% of outstanding shares. I have written support from institutional investors representing an additional 11%. Combined with proxy alignment from legacy shareholders, we are prepared to call a full special meeting. Leonard read the page twice. Ryan looked stunned. You've been organizing shareholders? For years, I said. Quietly. That was the third shift. The room fell into a tense, whispering chaos. Board members leaned toward one another, voices low but urgent. Ryan stood abruptly. This is sabotage. She's exploiting a technicality. Leonard's voice cut through the noise. Sit down, Ryan. He didn't argue. He sat. Leonard looked at me carefully. If we accept your terms, you will suspend further regulatory escalation? I will cooperate with authorities fully, I said. Transparency protects shareholders. So does reform. Leonard nodded slowly. And if we don't? Then this proceeds publicly. Ryan stared at me like I had betrayed him personally. As if I owed him loyalty after he had treated me as expendable. That was the thing about men like Ryan. They believed hierarchy entitled them to obedience. Leonard cleared his throat. We'll need to vote. One by one, hands lifted. Not enthusiastically. Not dramatically. But decisively. For in favor of immediate executive suspension pending investigation. One abstention. None opposed. Ryan's shoulders dropped, almost imperceptibly. That was the moment he understood. This is absurd, he muttered. No, Leonard said quietly. This is accountability. Security was called discreetly. Ryan gathered his things without looking at me. As he passed, he leaned close enough that only I could hear him. You'll regret this. I didn't respond. Regret requires doubt. I had none. Once the door closed behind him, the atmosphere changed. Lighter. Not calm, but clearer. Leonard faced me. If we proceed with these reforms, we'll need leadership for the compliance restructuring. I agree, I said. He hesitated. Would you accept the role of Chief Compliance and Governance Officer, reporting directly to the board? The irony almost made me smile. 11 years invisible. Now they wanted me front and center. I will accept, I said carefully, with independence guaranteed in writing. You'll have it, Leonard replied. By noon, internal announcements were drafted. By 2 p.m., Ryan's resignation was public. By market close, Aldrich Capital's stock dipped briefly, then stabilized. Investors respond predictably to one thing above all else, stability through transparency. That evening, I walked through the 7th floor slowly. Employees were whispering, speculating. Some avoided eye contact out of uncertainty. Others nodded with quiet respect. Janet from accounts stopped me near the elevator. Is it true? She asked softly. Yes, I said. Your bonus will be restored. Her eyes filled. Thank you. It wasn't gratitude I wanted. It was equilibrium. By the end of the week, Project Atlas was officially suspended. A forensic audit firm began independent review. Meridian Strategic Advisory's contracts were terminated. Shareholder oversight structures were drafted. The system did not collapse. It recalibrated. That Friday, I stood in my new office on the 34th floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows. View stretching across the Hudson. The city looked different from up there. Not because it had changed. Because I had. Sandra, my attorney, leaned against the doorway. You know, most people would have taken the settlement and disappeared. I know, I said. Why didn't you? I thought about that for a moment. Because invisible isn't powerless, I replied. It's underestimated. She smiled faintly. Well, they won't underestimate you again. Later that night, I opened my laptop and sent a company-wide message. Effective immediately, executive compensation policies are under independent review. All previously eliminated performance bonuses are reinstated. A new governance structure will ensure transparency at every level. Compliance exists not to obstruct innovation, but to protect integrity. I paused before typing the last line. If you ever believe your voice doesn't matter, read your contract carefully. I hit send. Outside my window, Manhattan glowed under city lights. Somewhere in another office, another woman was likely being overlooked. Another professional being dismissed as quiet. Maybe she would hear about what happened here. Maybe she would look at her own agreements. Maybe she would realize that silence is not weakness. It's patience. Ryan thought cutting my bonus would go unnoticed. Instead, it cost him his position, his reputation, and very likely more once investigations conclude. They say revenge is best served cold. But this wasn't revenge. This was structure correcting itself. If this story resonated with you, I want to know where you're watching from. Drop it in the comments. And tell me honestly, would you have activated Clause 14C, or would you have taken the money and walked away? If you believe intelligence is more powerful than ego, hit like. If you enjoy stories where strategy wins over arrogance, subscribe to the channel. There are more stories like this waiting to be told.